No, I think he knows. You said that red light, so
Yeah.
yeah. I know.
I just didn't know if I made it so temperature.
They're all without me.
What?
It's around against reading. You want once?
But I just like they put it it's back it down. It's like
Why would they need to see that?
let go.
Maybe she had to get some.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, now we're ready.
We're ready? Okay. We return to open session. So item 1 is petitions, communications and requests. This is a time of the meeting that a citizen may address the council on a matter not on the agenda. Except in case of emergency, the city council may take any action at this meeting, but may ask city staff to research the matter or have the matter placed on the agenda for a future meeting. Anyone have anything for us? Okay, well, I've got a proclamation for the first Lego League Day. Did you want to come up now? Anyone, Bob, do you want to take a picture? Yeah. It's a proclamation for the first Lego League Day. Whereas the Webster City High School has been chosen to host a first Lego League region qualification tournament, which will bring around 20 to 22 first Lego League teams to Webster City from across the state of Iowa for a day of friendly competition. Whereas first in the international not-for-profit organisation founded by accomplished inventor Dean Payne in 1989 and has proven its impact on STEM learning, interest and skill building beyond the high school. And whereas first for inspiration and recognition of science and technology is a robotic community that prepares young people for the future through a suite of inclusive team-based robotics program for ages 4 to 18, pre-K to 12, that can be facilitated in schools and in structured after-school programs. Whereas teams operate under the signature set of first core values, which include discovery, innovation, impact, inclusion, teamwork, and fun, to conduct research, fundraise, design, build, and showcase their achievements during annual challenges. And whereas the first community expresses the first philosophies of gracious professionalism and cooperation through the core values mentioned above, gracious professionals learn and compete like crazy, but treat one another with respect and kindness. Cooperation is displaying unqualified kindness and respect in the face of fierce competition, and is founded on the concept and a philosophy that teams can and should help and cooperate with each other other than as they compete. Therefore, I, John Hawkins, Mayor, do hereby proclaim December 2nd, 2023 as first Lego League Day in Webster City, Iowa, and encourage all teams to compete with integrity and sensitivity in their quest to advance to the state tournament, and for citizens, residents, and visitors to recognise this event as opportunities for the participants to create connections and open pathways to a wide variety of careers. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I got a reminder, Thanksgiving morning at 9 a.m. this turkey trot. If you want to bring a couple of canned items with you, you can run, walk, however you want to get there, but it's at 9 a.m. on Thursday morning. Okay, the following items have been doing non-controversial routine actions to be approved by a council member in a single motion. If a council member or member of the audience wishes to have an item removed from this list, it will be considered on its normal sequence on the agenda. I have minutes of November 6th, resolution on payroll for period ending November 4th and paid on November 10. C is a resolution on bills and approve the fund list. D is the city manager reports for October. E is the police department October reports for activity reports and speed camera reports. F is the fire department report for October and Hamilton County Solid Waste Commission agenda packet for November. And then recommend approval for issuing of beer and liquor licenses by the Iowa Department of Commerce for the following: new Class C retail alcohol license and outdoor service for GWR Enterprises, Webster City Country Club, 405 North Des Moines Street, under new ownership, tentative effective date 1/1/24. The renewal of a Class B retail alcohol license for Quick Star number 924 at 505 Fairmeadow Drive. Renewal of Class C retail alcohol license with Wildcat Products, Wildcat Distilling at 626 2nd Street. An amendment of Class E retail alcohol license for BW Gas and Convenience Retail, Yes Way at number 1018 and Yes Way 1021.
I move to approve collectively.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item 3, general agenda. We have a presentation from Bolton and Mick on the wastewater treatment plant update.
Hi, I'm Greg Sent, and this is Andrew Sent from Bolton and Maine. Daniel asked us to come and give an update on the wastewater treatment plant design project status. We're in final design. We're carrying through with the recommendations that were in the facilities plan that were reviewed at the July workshop. And there's been no real major deviation or revision to that plan as far as process and facility. We're looking at completing design and be ready for going to bid in April next year. Completion date December of 2026. The big thing that has happened here just in the last week is that the city has been able to secure the easement for the force main route. And that's been a major milestone to reach here. Which no small undertaking, and you'll be taking action on that later this evening. Andrew will give us an overview here of the design concepts and give you a kind of a flavor of what the plant's going to look like.
Okay, the first item we'll cover is the East Lift Station, which is by East 2nd Street in town. The East Lift Station will have pumps replaced and electrical equipment upgraded. We recently found an issue here with the map floodway for the area that we're reviewing to see how to best address that. The city's also installing a generator at this lift station as a separate project, and we're working through that issue with them right now. The bulk of the project is south of the East Lift Station. The first part we'll cover here is the existing wastewater treatment facility site. We plan to reuse the influent channel and the control building at that site, screen the waste and remove grit, and then pump it through a new force main that follows this blue line down to the south to the new wastewater treatment facility site that's south of Highway 20. The easement, I believe the purchase agreement is on the agenda here later today, covers this section of force main that passes down through a timber area and then along a field, crossing the railroad tracks. Another issue that has recently come up is discussions about pass water substation and crossing Highway 20. Either through pass waters or around pass water substation. The current plan is to demolish pass water substation and construct the force main through that site. An alternate that the city may want to consider is going around pass water substation and leaving pass waters in service for a few more years. Our understanding was the city's utility consultant recommended decommissioning pass waters and building a new substation, the Reisner substation south of Highway 20. So I think the key thing to consider here is how the new wastewater treatment facility will be powered, if it'll be powered out of pass waters or Reisner. If pass waters has capacity to do that, and the cost to power the new wastewater treatment facility from pass waters. There's upgrades that are needed, and what the life cycle is there. There is a potential route for the force mains around pass water substation site to the west. These blue lines here on the screen show that. We want to look into this route a little further before saying that it is for sure feasible. That is the comments on that. Or does anybody have questions on the pass water substation area? Okay. So back to the overall aerial view, crossing Highway 20 and then getting down to the new wastewater site south of Highway 20. The city has been able to secure easement for the new outfall to the Boone River, south of drainage ditch 166. That's taken care of. We'll take a look at the 3D model here real quick. This is a design program called Revit, and this is the new wastewater treatment facility site. Wastewater will enter the site on the east side and first go to this building where fine screening and grit removal will happen in this circular chamber here. The wastewater will flow by gravity from this building out to the Boone River. So it's pumped at the existing site north of Highway 20 to this building, and then from here it goes by gravity out to the river. So it'll flow by gravity from this preliminary treatment building to the nutrient removal basin, where nitrogen and phosphorus removal are occurring, and then next to the aeration basin, where BOD and ammonia is converted to nitrate. Key basin in the whole treatment process is the aeration basin. After the aeration basins, it flows to the clarifiers, where the activated sludge, the biomass is settled and collected in the bottom of the clarifiers. A portion of it is wasted each day, and then the rest of it is returned for continued use in the treatment. This building down here is called the operations building. This equipment shown along the wall are the blowers that provide air or dissolved oxygen to the aeration basins for treatment. And then there's another row of blowers along this wall that provide oxygen to the aerobic digesters that are located just east of the operations building. The operations building has a deep basement in it for sludge pumps. So the sludge pumps will serve both the clarifiers on the west side of the building and the digesters on the east side of the building. So we're getting kind of dual use out of that basement using both sides of the building. The operations building also includes sludge thickening equipment, which are shown here. These two disc shaped pieces of equipment are for thickening the sludge, removing water. So the tanks can be smaller. We're not storing as much water. It's more sludge material and not water. And then 2 chemical feed rooms for use in the treatment process. Up the site, I guess we could, so the water is the sludge is removed in the clarifiers, and then the water flows on to the UV building, which stands for ultraviolet disinfection equipment. So the water passes through the UV channel for disinfection prior to discharge. And then this last tank here is to, it's called a re-aeration basin. It brings the dissolved oxygen up to meet NPDES discharge permit limits for dissolved oxygen for water discharge to the Boone River. So from this tank, it flows by gravity out to the Boone River. Sludge is processed up on the west side of the site in this press building. We'll have a sludge press, and then the pressed sludge is stored in this bunker style building. It's a fabric covered hoop building. So the sludge will be stored here until it is land applied on farm fields. One key item I see that I passed over at the start is the flow equalization lagoon, which allows the whole mechanical treatment plant behind it to be sized for a lower flow rate. The flow will be restricted to 5 MGD, and any flow above 5 MGD will be diverted to this flow equalization lagoon, and then returned to the treatment plant for treatment and discharge at a later time when the flows recede. Anybody have questions or?
I'm assuming the yellow paths, it's like a paved
Right,
path area.
yeah,
So that's paved out west to the connection to the road, right?
yeah, so this here is Flows Drive.
Yeah,
And
old highway 17 there.
Right.
Yep.
so this closed drive will be extended to the site, and then the site access road starts here.
You zoom out to the lagoon again, real quick, and point out how the city's existing 69 kV line will have to be realigned to accommodate the lagoon.
Yeah, that line is not shown on this. So that 69 kVA line comes through the site and then heads north
Up to the password.
up to Passwater substation. Okay.
So during the construction process of the plant, that 69 kV line is going to have to be temporarily realigned. And then there'll be a permanent line constructed in conjunction with the construction of the Reisner substation. So while both projects are separate, there's a lot of coordination involved between doing the wastewater treatment plant and the 69 kV line and the new substation. So a lot of moving parts to that piece.
And that 69 kVA lines planned to be relocated by the April, I think, of 2024. So it'll be out of the way when construction starts at some point.
The big thing to look at first out of the box here is working with DGR on the feasibility of powering the new plant out of Passwater. Make sure that capacity is there. Because up until a few weeks ago, we were looking at just a Reisner substation.
Yeah, if the Reisner project is not built.
Yeah, Reisner project, you know.
The current plan right now is that Passwaters will be decommissioned and Reisner will be built before the new plant is put online. And the plant will be powered out of the Reisner substation. So if that plan changes, then we need to review how the plant will be powered.
The new plant has its own backup generator.
For emergency backup, yeah, right.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
oops, go ahead. The emergency backup generator is planned to go right here on the site next to the operations building.
We've had several design meetings with city staff. And city staff have reviewed alternative equipment types and we've basically all the equipment has been selected. I guess the sludge thickening. The equipment again is maybe a little bit up in the air, but the types of pumps and types of equipment, types of blowers have all been selected. They'll be put in the specifications as a base bid item, where a contractor will base their bid on the equipment that the city prefers, with ability to bid alternates for the city to consider afterwards, but something be possibly less expensive. The important thing here is that the city staff and us have reviewed the types of equipment, and it's very critical going into design, so we make sure that the equipment meets the expectations of the city, what the city wants.
Very good. This is cool to see it in 3D.
Greg, timeline for next steps, you have the finishing design, submittal to DNR, what does that look like timeline for the council?
Yeah, we're looking at probably March or April, submitting to DNR. The steps we go through now is that we submit plans and specifications and a construction permit application to DNR for their final review. We expect it'll go pretty easy because the facilities plan is very detailed on the process design selection. So the approval plan and specifications by DNR should go fairly rapidly. Then there's a 1 month bid period. You receive the bids, and the bids would be open to your review for 30 to 60 days. Then you award the contract and you go. The DNR will do an environmental review. In fact, it talks about how critical things are. This easement is a big deal because it's been holding up the environmental review. And environmental review is the DNR sends an archaeologist out to look at the sites to make sure there's no problems with artifacts disturbing environmental resources. That's been on hold until we get the easement. And you can see, as Andrew showed on here, the easement is a long stretch, and there's going to be a lot of work on that. Yeah. So the importance of that environmental review is that it's critical to state revolving fund financing for the project. That's a requirement that has to be done. That's good news.
Greg, you talked briefly, I know in the current wastewater treatment permit, the DNR had given the city a deadline to complete and have a new plant in operation by end of 2024, 2025. So as part of the submittal, you're going to have to request an extension of that.
That's correct, yeah. We'll request a modification to the permit for construction of the nitrogen and phosphorus removal. And DNR has been very good about giving extensions on these projects, especially when somebody is doing the project right. Sometimes people try taking shortcuts and just not paying attention to things, and DNR doesn't like that. In this case, Webster City's doing it the right way.
Thanks very much.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah,
You said that the wastewater treatment plant's gonna do 5 million gallons a day. It's big enough to treat 5 million gallons.
Average flow, 30 days.
What do we do right now?
Peak flows around 9 million gallons a day.
Peak flow is during flood or something like that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so-
Yeah.
Without the floods, what, on an average day? What do we use?
Currently, right now, we're a million, it's a little less than a million right now.
Okay, so you're at 1 million, you're building it for 5 million.
Peak flow.
I understand peak flow. Peak flow, how often does that happen in the lifetime of that piece of equipment, of that facility? I mean, you got history from the previous facility, so you know how often you hit your peak flow. How many years or how many times a year do that? So you're building this, in my opinion, way over capacity. Plus you've got a 12 million, I believe it's a 12 million gallon retention pond. So we're gonna have all this extra. And if you, like anything else, if you overbuild it and then you run it at a lower demand, it's gonna cost you more to run it.
It's sized, it's designed to operate at less than full capacity. 2 treatment trains.
I understand that, but it's still gonna be more expensive if you run it at a lower level than 5 million capacity, because you always try to run it at the most efficient. It would be a 5 million gallon a day.
In this case, there's turned down the plant and all the equipment is designed to be run at lower rates. Multiple blowers, you see the multiple pieces of
Yeah.
equipment in here.
It seems a multiple pieces of equipment, but at the same time, it's also costing $78 million to do this to the extent that you want to run 5 million gallons a day. When right now we're running 1 million gallons a day. At a peak flow, you're talking 5 million gallons a day or 9 million. And
Yeah,
again,
that's 30, the average 5 million gallons a day.
right, the average
We
is 5 million gallons
reduced
a
the
day.
peak flow from like 10 million down to, or 9 million down to 5 million with the use of that equalization lagoon. That will take care of these short periods of very high flow. Rather than sizing the plant to handle the 9 million gallons.
Right, but at the same time, you're building a facility and people in this room are paying for to do up to 9 million gallons a day at peak flow, which 9 million gallons a day, you may not reach for years. You don't have it happen every year.
Yeah, during peak wet weather periods you will.
So in the last 20 years, how many times have we hit 9 million gallons or 6 million gallons? When I was on the council back in 2012, they were talking 6 million gallons was the max flow. So my question is, we're building a facility that is going to be way bigger than what we need, in my opinion. Now, that's just my opinion. So I'm trying to figure out what's the justification.
That was in the facility planning process, so you can read the facilities plan, I can go over that with you if you'd like. Review the facility plan is where that decision was made. Back 2 years, 3 years ago.
Well, they've been working on this for since 2017 was when they first started talking about doing wastewater treatment plant, from my understanding. And I guess that's why I've got people asking me, why are we building it so big to have such a mass amount of volume when we don't have the volume?
It's been very dry recently.
I understand it's been very dry. It was very wet. We never had 9 million gallons. We were at 6 million gallons.
Maybe another question to ask would be, you know, to kind of reel this in here. Our plant we're currently operating with right now is obviously designed to handle more than 1 million a day. Right. You know, it's probably designed to handle 5 or 6, or I don't, I'm assuming, you know, I'm assuming it's a size larger than that.
It is, yes. Yeah. The peak flow is like 5-6 million gallons. They actually you can put like 8 or 9 million through it. At peak pumping capacity.
Right. So, and again, I'm trying to jar my memory of some of these conversations we had 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you know, kind of why we sized it the way it did. You know, yes, there's some future expansion, but I'm pretty sure we didn't overshoot that by much. I mean, we put like a, you know, 25-30% growth on this plant. We didn't double it or triple it just for the heck of it, you know.
But where are you gonna get the 25 to 30% growth? That's all the questions I'm asking, you know.
So let me ask you this question
I'm
then.
told that we're gonna go from 7,800 people in Webster City to 11 or 12,000 by 2040.
Let me ask you this question. So if for big round numbers, it's a $70 million plant. Okay. And if we only oversized it 20%, okay, so how about we just spend 55 or 60 million and not be able to grow at all?
But that's.
Because we
not the
have to
reality
replace,
we're Talking about.
we have to-
You can always make the facility to where you can expand it in a later date.
and you can expand this in the later day as well.
For what you need. In my opinion, there again, it's my opinion from what I've been reading and understanding.
No, I understand there's a fresh,
Necessity for Webster City, even with 10% growth in Webster City, which Webster City has not grown in population since the 1960s. So if we're thinking that we're going to grow to 11 or 12,000 people, that's going to help populate this wastewater treatment plant, I think
that's not what we're shooting. I don't think any of us in this room designed this to be 11,000 person community. I think everybody in this room designed this to be a community that can welcome another industry if need be. And that doesn't necessarily mean people live here, but that does mean tax base and does mean economy growth. So I don't think anyone in this room decides this for $11,000 person community. We just want to be able to accept new industry in if it comes our way. This was an economic development decision, obviously a health decision for our river and our community, and just the overall health of the community. I understand it's a big number, but I really don't think we're overshooting the mark by much. And if we didn't expand it, give us a little bit of room to grow, then really we're just replacing what we already had. And we have to replace what we have. So again, I wanted to kind of understand, like, okay, we can spend 55, 60 million and just have exactly what we had. And now we're up against a wall if industry does come. With this, it does give us some room to grow. And that may be in population, it may be in industry, it may be in tax base, but we don't have that option today. And that's the delta.
well, a lot of ifs in there.
Well, no, I would correct that statement. There isn't an if without it. So let me put it this way, there is no if without the expansion of a water treatment. There's no possibility of an if.
Greg,
That's
can you elaborate a little bit? Because sometimes I think there's the thought process that, okay, it's designed for 5 million. If we cut that to 2.5, we're not cutting the price of the plant by 50%.
No,
You're not comparing apples to apples in that regard.
I understand that. I know basic math, but you have to have the equipment in place to begin with, so you're not going to take it in half.
I wasn't insinuating.
About treating 5 million gallons a day.
Right.
Well, right now we treat 1 million gallons a day. And as a high flow, you're saying there's 9 million gallons, which I haven't had anybody tell me when was the last time we had that. Does anybody know the last time we had a 6 million gallon flow?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can tell you if you give me.
Well, I
a date,
understand,
we
but I
can
mean,
get together.
those are some of the questions that I have, and I know other people have. And I guess the thing that frustrates me is that the people in this room and in this community are paying for this. And when you look at what you want to do with your water treatment or your water bill right now, I'm talking about double, I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money. And so that's my concern, is that why are we building it so big at this time? Now, if you have an industry that's telling you they're going to come here today, it'd probably be 2 years before they start, before they got here.
We actually knocked an industry back already in the last 12 months because we didn't have capacity.
But that's
And
because you didn't have.
we told them, and we
We
actually told them that we couldn't build it and we would give you capacity when the new plant was built. And the plant we're actually building wasn't big enough for what they needed, and they went somewhere else. And
if that's built a plant for specifically one industry or business to meet their accommodations.
No, that's not.
That's majority of it's gonna be the residential customers in the community are paying.
That's not what the mayor's sentiments mean. We're building this to give us the opportunity to accommodate industry if so being. The economy of scale to build to this size, again, we're not regressing back to the math conversation, was a pretty much no brainer because it really wasn't that much more to give us more capacity to house and accommodate that industry. And what that industry is, we don't even know. Like, who knows? I mean, again, you say there's a lot of ifs, but again, those ifs aren't even discussions when they look at what, the electrical infrastructure and the water infrastructure and real estate. So
at the moment, you can't even, the businesses that are here can't even expand. We don't have any capacity.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because the wastewater treatment plant's only treating 1 million gallons a day.
Their nitrogen output, a treatment we're actually.
I was gonna
treating.
say, I think Greg, you may. I'm just a lawyer here, right? But I didn't know when I went to law school that I was gonna be looking at wastewater treatment agreements all the time, but it seems like that's the thing lately. So maybe it's better to clarify too, your flow is one factor that in the design capacity, right? You have TKNs and BODs and all that stuff. All that stuff is not just based on 9 or 5 million gallons a day, right? There's pounds and you name it. So I think that's also an important thing to be considering is 5 million gallons is not saying this plant is treating 5 million gallons. It could, but there's also, we have the design capacity, which we're already maxing out on a lot of items are TKNs, BODs, TSS, whatever their fancy initials are. So I think that's probably an important thing to discuss too, is that we're just looking at the flow. That's only one small factor in this whole.
That impacts really the size of these clarifiers, these round tanks here.
Right.
And size of piping.
Yeah, but that's,
And headworks, but aeration basins are fairly independent of flow. Aeration equipment, the big power use is fairly independent of flow.
but whether you
It's
do,
organic loading.
whether you're doing 1 million gallons or 10 million gallons a day, the DNR requires us to remove the hazards out of the water, regardless of how much how big your supply. But at the same time, when you're producing 1 million, 2 million, or 5 million gallons a day, do we need to have it to where you can do 9 million gallons a day? Now, they're saying, yes, you do. But realistically, do you?
Yes, you do. You can't bypass raw sewage.
No, I understand
This
this.
is what it would be if you didn't design it for that. And that's why we have a flow equalization based on take the 9 million to reduce it down to 5 million average. And we store peak flow events in the equalization.
But the peak flow events are caused by rainwater, not sewage.
That's right.
So it's infiltration into the sewage system. Which I was told that we segregated our storm sewers from our wastewater sewers.
You have separate sanitary and storm sewer
Yeah.
systems. There is.
So we got them separate. So we shouldn't have the issue that we've had in the past, because we took all the sub pumps out of it.
That's only a small piece of the whole. It's, we have hundreds of miles of pipes under the ground here. That's, a lot of it's very old and you're still getting infiltration into the system. And you always will have infiltration into the system.
So
But at the same time,
that's not really driving the cost of this plant that much. It's really, the organic loading doesn't change with the flow rate here. You're talking about the big flow rates. The organic loading does not go up by a factor of
Right.
8 or whatever.
that's the lead.
Yeah, it's clean water.
Yeah. Understand. But there again, it's a lot of conversations that I've had with other individuals, and that's what their concern is with building $78 million plant. That's what it's costing now. Who knows what change orders and everything else that may come down the pipe.
It also may come in at half the price. We don't know that, do we?
Yeah.
At some stage, prices
Yeah,
will come down, you know.
Yeah,
Everybody assumes that everything in the world is going to keep going up for the next foreseeable future. And then interest rates are going to keep doubling and all the
well,
rest
I
of it.
don't know.
But that's actually not
Double
going to keep
because,
doing.
Interest rates used to be cheap, that's when everybody got it cheap, and I remember when interest rates were.
Which is why we tried to build this thing before we ever got to $78 million. But and the longer we beat this around, the more it's costing us.
Well, there again, I don't want to. I can just remember with the existing wastewater treatment plant when I was on the council. It was said that we built it too big and we wasted a bunch of money. Because it
The
cost,
existing plant's too small.
well, it is right now, because we've taken half the stuff out of it that used to work, that doesn't work anymore.
Most of it's never worked since it was put in and back in '99.
There
We
again,
can't get the parts to fix them.
I didn't design it, so I couldn't.
Yeah.
The max day for water, just shy of 8 million gallons. That was October 9th, 2018. That was for the period between 2013 and 2019.
So you had one day,
Yeah, that's what DNR requires you to design to.
What is the expected life of this plant?
Well, we use 20 years for equipment life, but the tanks and the major components of the plant would be probably on the order of 40 to 50 years. We can figure on mechanical equipment about 20 years, so it's a good life. And you go through the history of your plant, and that's how it's been going. You're really living on borrowed time on the plant now, and because we did those the RBC replacement about 25 years ago or so, I think. And those do have, by the way, that is one piece of equipment you can't predict when it's going to break down. 25 years is about it.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you very much.
Andrew?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Did you want to, Chris, did you want to do a presentation on the recyclers?
Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. I think most of you know who I am. Those of you that don't know me in the gallery here, I am Chris Kehoe with the Trash Man. Been here for over 30 years. I was asked to make a presentation of recycling. I'm not so sure that wasn't to defend my company on what we are doing. You got the emails, you got the Facebook posts. It's disheartening of a person who lived here all their life, done this for so long, the family business prior to, that a competitor's email, American Sanitation, says he is bitter twice, that he lost the bid. You did a great job putting the RFP out. You went through your due diligence. You picked the best company at the best price that there was. And I applaud you for that. But the concern that I have now is my company gets drugged through all of this because of somebody thinks we are throwing trash away, or somebody thinks they see this. So I am here tonight to present it, to take care of that fallacy. And the people that are with me here, not all of them that are here tonight, represent over 125 years of recycling and solid waste collection with this company. And they're disheartened that basically what they have been doing, for some of you, we'll have somebody that you will talk here shortly, for over 20 years, the recycling routes, and somebody's now accusing him of throwing it away. So what I brought tonight, first of all, before we get into these, the council should have pictures of our normal route. First one being a picture of a gentleman walking behind and going to collect recycling. Okay. Now, what you see there, and I know this is the issue, but that's a garbage truck. But you know what? In our industry, that's a collection vehicle. It is a single stream collection vehicle. A little over a year ago, when we had the massive storms for 2 straight days, at 30 to 40 to 50 below temperatures, as a person running operations for people outside and for the city, my job was to figure out, how am I going to do this? Make sure that the citizens get picked up, but more importantly, my people are safe. So we went to a whole different operation than we have been doing the past 25 years, and that is a single stream sort. Pass by. That means everything in that bin is loose and can be picked up. Now, instead of 3 guys on a truck that has the potential to break down, now I have 2 people on that, sometimes even 1. That material is collected in anywhere from 2 to 3 hours less time than I was doing it before. And it's only going to get better now with the opportunities that you have given us. Because in about 2.5 weeks, you're going to see another collection vehicle, which is an automated collection. So I would hope we could put this to rest. That people are seeing us throwing it away and doing all of that. So the next slide that you see here, you see him dumping in the back. I take a picture of what we call the hopper. Go to the next slide. What does that look like? Recycling. It's mixed recycling and all together. The next slide, you'll see going down the street. Look at there. Yellow bag, white bag, 3 black bags down there. We've already been through recycling. Next photo that you have is our recycling facility, our center, so we'll do that. Next one that you see is we are backing up to unload that into our recycling center. You go to the next one, Daniel's fine. There it comes. Like that every day. And you can see at the end, when we're done, truck is empty. And big piles are there. Right there. That is called mixed recycling, folks. That's called single stream. And that is industry standard pretty much today to do it that way. So I'm not a big math person, but I wanted to share the Excel spreadsheet that we put in for the year 2023. And I think if you look at that bottom one, 1,042,340 pounds of recycling this year. 521 tons. And I have spent shy under $20,000 at the Fort Dodge Recycling Center. So I just want to make sure I understand why in the world I would ever think about doing that. If you look at our numbers of tonnages, what do you see? Fairly consistent. And that's not all of it. That's not what we have on the other trucks that come in. That's not what we have in large industries here in town that have recycling. That's just residential recycling. I've invested up to $500,000 in this project coming up. With carts, some of you probably see them at your house. Some of you, I'm sure, have gotten all kinds of phone calls. But the reality is that's what we're going to go to. That's the direction. So when you come to the curb, you're going to get recycling. Same day, we're going to come back in the afternoon. Garbage, just like we have. But hopefully this situation will take that into consideration, understand where we're going. And the last one that you had there that you saw earlier was, that's just a ticket from the North Central Regional Landfill. That just shows right there, recycling, single stream recycling. I get charged 2 cents a pound. So that particular day was 6.5 ton, and it charged me $242. So I'm excited, folks. We've been recycling here for over 25 years. And it's an opportunity, things have changed. Change is tough for some people. Losing is tough for some people. I don't like to lose. But I'm excited to continue on with the operations that we have here. These people are excited to continue what they're going to do. Any questions for me?
I don't have any questions, but I guess I wanted to give you the perspective that I'm sorry you feel like you were coming to defend your company. I looked at it as an opportunity for you to set the record straight because people are asking the questions. oftentimes probably unfairly. And this is a good way to just put it out to say, let's end the questions now. Because I've had to explain it to 3 or 4 different people, and I knew you weren't throwing away recycling. But this is a way that you can get it out to everyone, that this is how we're doing it. And that you're doing it the right way. So I that's how I look at it. I'm sorry that you feel like it's the opposite.
Well,
That's
what
one-
what
that's
you
not
got
good.
on Friday, the emails and the Facebook stuff. That's not somebody wondering whether or not I'm throwing it away.
It's an
And you have a fair point, Matt. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Exactly. Right. And I am here willing to say, this is what we do. This is how we do it.
And-
We're not perfect. We're human.
Sure.
No, and I'll mirror those statements because again, I saw this as an opportunity for like come explain this, what do you call it, single stream collection, because it is different, right? You know, we're used to the bin and the sort right there in your yard. You kind of see it, you know. So I think a lot of folks saw it happening differently and they were confused. And again, when I was asked, I was going, no, we just signed a contract with them. They're recycling it. They're just doing it different. And that's when we got this email. And there's been other comments in, in the community, and we all get stopped sometimes, and people ask, like, how does that work? And I would be honored to try to explain what you guys do, but I can't intelligently, like you just did, show how it's collected, sorted, and then resold or deposited in a center. So I appreciate you coming and doing that. But again, I saw this as an opportunity for, the trash man to better educate I guess the customers, what's happening to recycling. Please don't think this is a reaction and we got to get to the bottom of what's going on here. And any of us accused you of doing any improper with the recycling. We just wanted to, instead of answer those one question at a time at Casey's or at Hy-Vee, just have you come set the record straight. And I appreciate you coming, especially with your crew coming in tonight and doing that. So.
Well, and this was not something that I thought council was concerned.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's obviously, if you look at, that's a whole year that we've been doing this. It wasn't until we just started this 2 months ago or 3 months ago. Well over a year. And people can call. You can go on our website, you can call us. I have staff open all the time. So. But I'll leave it at that. But I tell you what, I do have 2 individuals, if you have just a second.
Sure, of course, please, yes.
Want to express their scenario. And I will leave it at that. And like I said, we're halfway through delivering. Almost over half. So we're getting it. And then like I said, this will start that first week in December.
Awesome.
Okay, all right. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Glenn, go ahead.
Thank you.
If you can just state your name, please.
Glenn Allen Pigman. As part of the trash man recycling team for many years, we had to adapt many times to keep providing the recycling service to our many customers. We're taking more than what we should be allowed to, taking unwashed items, unsmashed plastic, and unbroken down boxes. We did the smashing and the breaking down of the boxes. From walk-ups for the disabled, we work in all kinds of weather and even working weekends for our customers. We have gone to great lengths to provide the best service we can, replacing tubs upside down, 2.5 feet from the curb, and picking up around the tubs. As stated earlier, our team goes to great lengths to service our customers. And to hear that some individuals think we just throw it all away is absurd and insulting. For me and the recycle team, we are adopting again to keep continuing to provide the recycling service. Thank you. The trash man has high standards and rules that each and every employee has to follow to be part of the team. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I apologize beforehand. I've had a cold for about a week, so my throat is long. My name is Addison Kehoe, and I've been part of the trash man since 2004, with my full-time employment beginning in 2011. I've observed the long history of our business since the early 90s, when my late grandfather Steve Keel and late uncle Randy Youngdale started the business, till now with my father at the helm. I've watched and been a part of the continued change, ongoing investment in our community, and the growth of this business. Our community has thrived in the face of change and competition because our morals and principles have stayed consistent. The same principles our community and town have been built on since its inauguration. Many individuals in our community have used a social media platform to provide us with a pat on the back, heartfelt appreciation, and thanks for our service. While we sincerely appreciate it, we will always do our jobs with professionalism and care because we love our community, love the people in it, and we don't need praise or recognition. What we have a hard time tolerating, though, is when a competitor has developed a failing business model that is built on the idea of mud throwing and one false claim after another and being listened to. While these tactics have been personally hurtful, we also know we have the power to decide how much energy we want to put into defending ourselves against sour grapes and bitterness. That being said, we also know if we continue to allow destructive insinuations and petty verbal assaults to be unanswered, we're going to continue this vicious cycle. Webster City is the gold standard in our community because of the people who are about the little things, who continue to help others, be that supportive shoulder, and provide a genuine smile when it's needed. We at the Trash Mill are also those people through and through. We are the same individuals you see at the grocery store, the gas station, football games on Fridays, races on Saturdays, 4-H, and baseball in summer. I'm proud to call these men behind me my co-workers, but more importantly, my brothers in hand. I want to thank you for your time and for allowing me to elaborate on just how grateful I am to be part of the Trash Mill and the Webster City community itself. These men behind me are the local proud individuals you see every day who live and work in our community and are equally thankful. We appreciate your trust in us to professionally do our jobs with care and pride every day, rain, snow, or shine. Thank you for the time. We hope you will put an end to the need for us to defend ourselves against this nonsense from a slanderous business model and unprofessional tactics. Thank you.
Thanks, fellas. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you don't want to.
We're enough water and good for right now. Thank you. You have a big project ahead. Thank you.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Hey, Randy.
You good?
Oh.
Well, we got it.
Yeah.
Okay, I have the first reading of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Webster City, Iowa, 2019 by amending Chapter 48 pertaining to water system rates. 30.
So the ordinance that you have in front of you is a result of the work session that we had last week. As you know, we had 3 different models that PFM brought, showing what rates would need to increase to meet our operation needs and future improvements. So at a minimum, we needed 30% because our revenues right now just cannot keep up with the operations and improvements that we've made thus far, and we have more to make. So I have a spreadsheet that shows if we use lost money to pay for some of the infrastructure, which we can do as part of the language when it's on the vote. And that it is updated to show also that the next item that will be after me, the Fair Meadow project, that the numbers on here have been updated. So you can see that we still have a decent balance by the end of 24. It gets lower in 25, 26, 27. But as we all know, this is a revolving fund. And sometimes we do have troubles getting contracts in the year. So just because we have, $3 million budgeted in 1 year, sometimes it's tough to get all those projects completed in that time. So, but I did want to also mention with this, we will have Brent Henson coming back, and he is also going to have some ideas on how to use lost. So I think for right now, to increase 30%, we're going to cut the budget by 200,000 for the upcoming year. And then, we're gonna, the 350,000 roughly of project costs that water paid for, we're going to have lost reimbursed the water for to get our cash right now up. So I'm asking that, I know it's painful, but I'm asking that we proceed with this. And I did want to mention too that, you know, the past 18 years, the base rate has increased twice. It was in 2009 and again in 2021. So this will be the third time that we're asking right now. And 4 times we had a residential increase in that same time frame, ranging from 2.26% to 31.55%. And the 31.55, of course, was when we had a longer gap in between raising rates. Unfortunately, with the water, we have had these big gaps where we haven't raised them. So thus we get into a situation like this. So I also have some spreadsheets that I gave everybody to show what this would mean to the residential, depending on how much usage. And the commercial is a little harder to show just because everybody's usages are so much different. So I just picked some averages there as well.
And this 30% increase recommendation on January 1st, that's 30% to the base and to the rate.
It is.
Okay.
And the ordinance also does, PFM and I have full intentions of coming back after the audit is complete and after all of our budget numbers are in to get in our capital improvements are done to get a better picture of what that needs to be. But sometimes things get pushed to the side. We have other things come up. And so as a result, that's why we've also put a 20% in there for 19 months later, and then the 5% every year. I have full intentions of being back before that would take place, but so that's the reason why. Just I didn't want it to get lost in the shuffle.
One thing I want to point out too is during our work session, we were running scenarios with our consultants in the 70% range. You know, we're trying to get creative right now with different funds, different usage of funds, different allocations for projects. So I hope the community understands that this has been discussed at length. Not only, you know, took a fine pen to from our consultants, but as well as us being educated on the options and the financial situation we are moving forward with our water infrastructure projects and possibly new facilities. So for the people listening tonight and hearing it in the paper tomorrow, 30% might seem like a large number, but it really is about the smallest number at this point. That really puts us in a good position to keep our water systems healthy.
And the intent, you know, after the last work session would be to use lost money for short term. We want to point that out too. We're not talking about using the lost fund year after year in the long term. It's just to kind of bring those balances back up for some of the past expenditures.
Correct. Yes.
Is the main reason for us going 30% and then 20% and then 5% or whatever after that, isn't this so that we can build the new water plant?
I'm not sure. To be quite, that's where PFM is we didn't have a model that we're using the lost money and building a new plant. We had one to put the money into the current plant. And we could get, the 30% came in when we could use the lost. It was 77% just to build the plant without using lost. And I want to say it was 55 or 15.
But my main reason, I guess, is that, so, you know, are we looking at building the new plant within 2 years or 3 years, or are we looking at building the plant in 5 years' time?
And with these rates, you're going to have to go at least 5 years.
Right.
Yeah, I think this is the option that we don't build sooner than later, like going with the 30. Like what I took from that conversation is we need 30 just to kind of write the course just on ongoing upkeep.
Correct.
Yeah, of the current facility. So whether we want to expand down the road with a new water treatment, not wastewater plant, other changes in rates may come into play. So
Yeah,
That's what
that's
we'd
how,
like to bring to you, like, you know, like next year,
Yeah.
or next year.
yeah, that was my understanding is, there's no decision on, you know, upgrades and repairs to the current versus new. For those that weren't at the work session or hearing about it, regardless of whether we built a new plant, the new plant's around 20 million, 20.7. It's gonna be about 16.2 for upgrades and repairs to the existing. So either way, we need to be looking at this 30%. And we have time down the road to be looking at which route we need to go.
Correct.
with no other questions, I'd move to approve the recommendation as it stands.
First reading.
A second.
Okay. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're definitely after 6:05 PM. We're public hearing on proposed plan specifications, proposed form of contract and estimate of costs for construction of the Fairmeadow Drive reconstruction project. We'll open the hearing. Are there any written objections?
Receive no written objections,
Are there any oral objections?
no oral objections.
I'll close the hearing. Brandon.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We're here asking to adopt a resolution to approve and confirm the plan specifications, form of contract, estimate of cost for the Fair Meadow reconstruction project, and award to Castor Construction in the amount of 1.9 million and committing necessary funds to complete the project. This project consists of improvements to the storm sewer, sanitary sewer, water main, and obviously the street surface, whether it be HMA and concrete. There are 3 additional locations to this project. One of the first one is we call the Freeman Journal parking lot driveway approach on First Street. That parking lot was redone last year, I believe. And so that was added to, we're gonna add it to, it made more sense to add it to this project for the concrete work. The second one is the First and Seneca Street on the north side, curb and gutter, and also the parking lot approaches to the city parking lot. And then third is the Graceland Cemetery HMA work. Kind of to give you a little information background more on the numbers. So Schneider Associates, their estimate came in for construction cost that they were thinking was the $1,695,963. Rash Construction came in, we had 2 bidders. The high one was Rash Construction at a little over 2 million. And then Castor Construction was low bid at 1.9 million. One of the reasons that it came in a little bit over budget, as stated in the memo that you guys had seen, was the flaggers and the mobilization. With just the complexity of this project, working at night, doing paving at night. John Haldeman is here with Schneider Associates, so he probably explains a lot better than me, but they needed 3 additional flaggers, more nighttime work, and how that transitions from nighttime work to daytime work. You have more, say, crew leads or foremen, and so the transition it gets complex there. So I guess to put this together and back up a little bit, so our engineering, we were at $249,950 from Schneider Associates, and if you add that with the Castor Construction bid of 1.9, that comes to $2,152,870. The original, what we had budgeted was 1.75. Talking to Doty the other day, we have kind of shoveled some additional funds to get to, I think, 2.3. is where we're at now. I will warn you that if we do move forward with this project for the Fairmeadow and the three alternatives, there will be an amendment, 17B1. I think 17B was shut down as a sidewalk. 17B1 is going to be additional funds for Schneider and Associates for the $29,600. This was paper here. This was for to provide construction observer for nighttime paving. It was anticipated that there'd be up to 19 nights of paving, and then 10 additional working days were added to the construction. So they will need to provide an observer from Schneider Associates and with the 10 additional working days. So if you add the 249,000 Casters bid of 1.9 and then the 29.6, your total is going to be $2,162,470.90. I hope I explained that. It was a lot. Just this project has been going on for a lot. I know Derek's done a lot of work with the right of way. That's taken a lot of time, more time than I think we've expected. So a lot of it's been in the works. This is a very busy area. Quickstar is awfully busy. It's and the complexity of the project, I think everybody totally understands that with just the location and the traffic. So there was a lot of people that pulled plans for this project, but only 2 did bid. So.
Probably because of the complexity. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes,
How far on Fairmeadow does the construction go? Is it just up to Des Moines Street?
Just to Des Moines Street, right? Yes, this project will be just to Des Moines Street.
So when are you gonna address the rest of Fairmeadow that's like this?
Yeah, so I believe that is in the 5-year.
When you get
That is being looked at, so yeah. Yeah.
I'm not clear on what you're doing with the cemetery.
So I'm not the best one to talk about this.
the cemetery, we seal roads in there and we tie them to HMA projects when we're doing them.
So the cemetery has gravel roads, and every year, every so many years, Brianne likes to pave it with asphalt. So we like to tie that project onto one that's got more volume of asphalt, so it comes in cheaper. So you get a better price the more paving you do.
And
so instead of them just doing a little bit, they tag it onto one of our projects to make it a better price.
And the last road that we were going to do in there, actually, they took that money and put the basketball court over in Warren Park. So that's we took that money and put it to that. So we robbed that so unfortunately we try to do a little piece in there every couple of years.
I know
we've robbed it a couple of times.
Yeah.
So this time we're catching up with a little bit.
It's included in a previous or future budget.
Yeah. It's in the budget every year.
For the cemetery?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe.
Okay, I'll call a resolution finally approving and confirming plans, specifications and formal contract and estimate of costs for Fairmeadow reconstruction project and awarding contract to Castor Construction in the amount of $1,902,920.90 and committing necessary funds to complete the project.
Move to.
Second.
All those in favour, aye. Okay, item E is a resolution providing for notice of hearing and proposed plan specifications, proposed form of contract and estimate of costs for construction of the 2024 HMA street improvement project for January 2nd at 6:05 p.m.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. You got it this time. So the 2024 HMA improvement projects, the plan specifications are about ready to be sent out for bid. The improvement areas is Elm Street, the 600 block, and then Wilson Avenue or Webster Street at the 500 block. We would just like to set a hearing date and go out to bid for it.
Okay,
Call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Item F is a motion on request from Webster City Community Theatre requesting help with funding to bring the corner of Bank Street and Wilson Avenue up to ADA compliance. Even Doug.
Let go first.
You can stay up there, Derek.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Doug Getter. I live at 2009 Beach Street. I'm here today to talk to you about an issue that has a great deal of concern to our nonprofit entity. We are a community theater and do 4 to 5 productions each calendar year. One of the issues that faces us is the safety of our patrons. As you might expect, the majority of our patron base is probably very similar to what you're looking at. Older, some of which is unstable, going from point A to point B. We started looking as a board to how to improve the safety of our facility to our patrons. One of the areas that surfaced was the accessibility, if you will, to our entrance. And looking at things over time, we approached Jeff Habhab, and he in turn turned to Trollcult Engineering to look at the scenario that we have relative to our front entrance. The front entrance has been in place for as long as the church has been there, or some time. The church was originally put into place in 1893. It has seen a lot of use, but once again, as the theater, we purchased the church in 1992. And have had the issue facing us with the American Disabilities Act, which was put into place in 1990. So looking at the timing of all of the activities that have occurred, we saw that the history of the intersection from a construction point of view, we really have no clue. It's been around for a long time. In measuring the roadway, the 1,000 block of Wilson is approximately a 42-foot roadway. If you go to the 1,200 block of Wilson, you find the roadway is a 30-foot roadway. Part of the discussion that came to pass was Schoenfeld and with Habhab was the observation that the street is too close to the theater. Or you could word that differently in that the theater is too close to the street. Unfortunately, the church has been there probably for longer than this current level of roadway in the city. What we have in comparison to what you've discussed earlier tonight is a drop in the bucket. No pun intended.
Pass this along.
Yeah. Oops. What we have here is a photo of the primary intersection that we have in question. And that's the intersection of Bank and Wilson. And as you can see, it doesn't really reflect the slope a great deal. But if you can go to the corner area, you'll see that there's a drop off, which is very significant. During winter months and other environmental conditions, that segment is very slippery. And about 3 years ago, one of our patrons slipped and fell. The good news was he wasn't seriously injured. He didn't file any legal actions. We tried to take care of him. He was very comfortable as a patron, taking care of his own health needs. But what we would like to do is bring that into ADA compliance. And in talking with Wayne and with Jeff, that corner is going to need to drop anywhere from 8 to 12 inches slope, which means that the sidewalk going off to the west with the large tree there just to the right, and the sidewalk going to the south is all going to have to be torn up, regraded, and new concrete put in to make it ADA compliant. We have the south end of our entrance, which we're not asking the city to participate with. That also needs to have significant work. The total cost for full project is $12,000 some odd dollars. And what we're asking the city to consider is cost share on that particular intersection of Wilson and Main. Schoenfeld has done the engineering drawings. Jeff has done some cost estimates. And what we're asking the city is to participate with us to the tune of approximately $3,900 to address the safety of that corner. We showed this to the mayor and to Daniel. Daniel suggested that we consider putting together a proposal for the hotel motel tax monies. But in looking at the proposition that was presented to the community back in 2006 and then renewed again in 2016, there's some very specific language, and I'll just share it with you right here. All revenue received by the city from the imposition of the hotel motel tax shall be deposited in the general fund of the city and shall be used as follows. 100% of the revenue from this tax to be used for the promotion and development of attractions and events in Webster City, Iowa, including trail extensions and enhancements, river enhancements, welcome signs, signage, visitor center, community appearance enhancements, promoting of writing and theatrical workshops and events and music in the retail areas. 100% seems to tell me that that's 100%. The project that we're looking at here is not an attracting event, if you will, for tourism. It is a capital need that has to be funded. And we would hope that the city would consider favorable action and work with us on helping to support this project and making the entire facility ADA compliant. That's what I've got to say. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
So Doug, the kind of the steep drop off there is that lighter gray section right by the curb heading. Yep.
The drop off.
Because your picture helps us see that a lot better
The
than
drop off starts here.
right. But it's kind of like after it hits the street, does it dip down a little bit, almost like the asphalt's missing from right here?
Yeah.
Kind of right.
Yeah. And so what we're proposing to do is starting back here, carrying this out, replacing it to be ADA compliant. One of the issues that remains kind of unknown, our board would like to be able to preserve this tree. But for as much as we need to dig out, we're not certain what the fate of that tree might be. And as you can see, that's not a small tree, so it's been there for a long time. it's kind of the challenge that we'd like to do in the summary of my data. We think it's a needed step. We're asking the city to participate with us to the tune of about 1/3 of the cost of this corner. That sounds like pretty mundane kinds of activities, what you guys have been dealing with tonight. And I thank you for being willing to serve as a council. Not an easy task. As Jerry knows, we both served on council together. I was a member of council for 6 years, served as mayor for 2. And I think we had a good community, we had a good council. So we'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
And what did you? I'm a member of the theater also. I'm president this year.
Yeah, let me do the introductions. This is Ann Blankenship. Ann is our current president. To her right is Angela Rottering, who serves as our vice president. And to her left is Louie Getter, who serves on the board as the secretary. We have a 9-person board of directors, and our discussions have all been, how can we get this done? We've lost a lot of time in the construction season, had it in play. But we all know Iowa weather, and it's a variable. And we've talked with Jeff as well, and we'd like to get this accomplished hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yes, Ann.
One of the scariest parts of that curve is not only the steep slope, but the fact that there is a gutter right there, a storm drain. And we've had many people step off that curve thinking it wasn't as steep a grade and almost go first into that. I think that is a hazard that we really need to look at.
I don't know, it's probably not that easy to move that storm.
So excellent.
I would like to, and when I've seen people try to push wheelchairs up, it's also too narrow and it's very steep. So.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's what this is addressing, is yeah.
And also there are no ADA plates currently.
Yeah. But I see that Jeff's got that in his quote.
Yes, it's included in the box. And I believe that was in your agenda package.
I think it'd be reasonable.
I don't see an issue.
I mean, I guess if we'll have to do it out of economic development or something.
The biggest issue you're probably gonna encounter with this is just the fact that the code says the adjacent property owner is responsible for the maintenance, and so, well, to fund this, and while it may be worth it, it's just you're gonna have to consider how you're going to address future requests. I mean, you have Asbury that's just redoing their corner on Des Moines Street, and so if you really want to fund improvements to address ADA ramps, you're gonna have to understand this is not gonna be a one-off. Next meeting, you may have someone else that comes, and so you would have to, what other cities do is they would set aside a pot of funds up to a certain amount, and throughout that fiscal year, it's available for property owners to be able to utilize as matching dollars, for instance, to any improvements to the sidewalks or ADA improvements. You can define that if you wish, but doing it as a one-off, you're gonna open the Pandora's box of other people coming without any parameters of how you want to address those future requests.
Well, I would say, A, it's up to the individual to address how it will be accomplished. Secondly, in the 16 years I've lived in Webster City, this is the worst non-compliant intersection I've traveled across.
I mean, I guess how many non-profit people are gonna come and ask for the money?
Yeah, I understand your cautionary tale there that this may, well, I have a, sidewalk that could probably be, given a grant from the city to help with, but with the relationship with the community theater and the city council, the hotel motel tax board in the past. You know, the fact that you've already done a quote, you've accepted ownership in the form of 2/3 of this project.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, I think there's probably a way we could do this to help out in one way, shape, or form. You know, to the tune of a 30% grant or help. Because again, like the mayor just mentioned, you know, I think us being kind of the gatekeepers here, I think we'd be able to distinguish between a nonprofit, a community amenity, than just, you know, everyone wants their sidewalk repaired. So I hope we can somehow come up with a way to help out here. If
Do you have anything to add, Derek?
I just wanted to reiterate what Danny was saying, because as right of way inspector, I have approximately 3 or 4 different ADA corners going in right now. So if we do it for one, my only concern is who else will want to come on board to try to get theirs all funded.
and I understand that, you know, and I encourage anybody coming with a request to council, you know.
Considering we just did when do we do a study on all this throughout the city? We haven't had an answer to that yet, but it's something, and I would think we're moving in the right direction here, but.
So let me ask the question are there other pieces of the budget for the community theater that could be looked at for hotel motel tax funding that then could just be reallocated towards that?
Not that I'm aware of. I would say from a capital and marketing attraction, we've accomplished, I think, what we were planning to try to seek assistance through hotel motel tax with. As I say, seems to be a very capital expenditure. And doesn't really qualify under what the voters have approved.
No, I don't disagree with that.
Would it fall under the community appearance or wordage?
The language contained in the referendum doesn't speak to attractiveness.
Okay, I thought it said appearance.
You're speaking to safety
Yes.
of the population
Right.
attending an event.
Okay.
And, you know, I try to be a patron of the theater on occasion. I go to 2 or 3 plays a year there, and you're right. A lot of times there's quite the crowd right outside the door. You know, whether it's, you know, shaking the hands of the actors or the directors or the staff, and they kind of congregate right there to a point where it's kind of a little dark too, usually when the play's over. So I definitely see the need for that. I walk around there quite a bit too, way to and from Fuller Hall, and I have noticed that. Obviously the stormwater is going to be there. I don't really see a way to get around that, but you know, the grading would help and great. But I mean, I would encourage us to see if we can help them if that's where the consensus would like to be.
That what we're looking for is a consensus.
What are they gonna need?
I didn't want to talk about the hotel motel though. One of the number 2 is construction and or enhancements of tourism infrastructure, amenities or attractions in the city or immediate surrounding area have a direct impact on the city. I read that as construction of an infrastructure would be this exact item.
Safety.
I mean, that's no different. I look at, we've done hotel motel for bathrooms, we've done hotel motel for the marquee at the movie theater. It's a capital improvement, a construction of infrastructure. I mean, I'm just saying, if you wanted to use that as a.
When's the next round of that?
I don't know, when is the
Spring.
Spring.
When it goes out.
I mean, I'm just saying, if you don't want to get in the concern is that, if the concern is that you're going to start some sort of a precedent, then the easiest solution would be that.
I'm not concerned about starting a precedent. I think any request is welcome at council.
Right.
It's up to us to kind of to be the filter. However, if they were to go the route of requesting hotel motel grants, I would suggest they request 100% of the cost of it. You know, we're here, $3,000 or $4,000, we can get this thing rolling sooner than later. If something were to happen over, I mean, I don't even know if you'd be able to get it done before this winter.
That's our next conversation with
Right.
Jeff.
But again, if you could, you know, if someone did twist an ankle between now and next spring, I'd feel bad. So, I mean, I'm just saying this would just kind of put a, you know, get the ball rolling for them. But if.
I sympathize. I mean, if it were up to me, I'd say, you write the check. It's small compared to everything else we're spending. I do think you have to consider the precedent. I mean, what about if it's the Asbury Church? Or if it's the corner down in front of Church of Christ? There's a lot of things that people could come back and ask for help with funding because we've granted to someone else. I think you have to at least consider it.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I hear the concern. It's not concerning to me, is all I'm saying. I'm considering it.
Well, I think what Daniel said, I mean, we could, you know, if we're gonna put a little fund, you know, we did an ADA study. Are we gonna look at providing a certain amount of money towards getting that improvement caught up? So we start that, we look at it that way. Because otherwise,
conversation.
otherwise, you know, are we gonna get this ADA caught up without doing something like that? So. Because you know, we've obviously got quite a few places in town that could do with this same sort of thing.
And ADA has only been around since 1990.
Yeah, no, it hasn't been around very long, you know. We've just done a study. So.
Okay.
We're experts.
We're getting it, we're catching up.
Could I just add, this isn't the only part of the project because right now, the wide entrance to the front door has a curb, so it's very difficult for someone in a wheelchair to get over that. So what Jeff has proposed is to make, there's a narrow sidewalk just south of that, to make that wider, street level, so that would be the handicap accessible in the front of the building. And we also have to address the slope that comes out of the front door, because it's not really compliant either, it's too steep. So we have to lower the ground there, raise the ground there and lower the ground on the corner. So,
yeah,
you know, what we're asking for is just that part where it involves the street sewer.
Yeah.
And possibly the tree.
Did I hear that right, that there's gonna be a secondary drop off in front of the building where there's gonna be a ramp that goes to the sidewalk?
Well, it just will be street level, like if you look at.
It's down near the doorway.
UCC, that, yeah, and then you'll get on the sidewalk.
That obviously won't need an ADA panel because that's down from the corner.
Okay.
I would assume that'd be right. And then
Jeff didn't mention that, so I don't even know if that's SUDAS, that had to.
that's not even, yeah, I mean, that's not, I don't know where that is on it. I guess that wasn't presented to it, but that's fine. That's another piece of it.
Well,
All right.
the key element is right there at that intersection with the street.
So what do you is it you'd like us to, you'd like, I guess from us now?
I guess the decision how you want to go. We can research doing an ED agreement with them to pay for that amount. You're gonna have to navigate the precedent you may set with that. You can look at just directing staff to set aside, throw a number in there, 20,000 for the next remaining portion of the fiscal year to go towards any 88 corner intersections that
I think that's
come up.
probably, I would think that's probably a cleaner way to do it, wouldn't you?
And probably loss would probably be the best option for it to come out of.
I'm cool with that. I mean, again, because there may be some legitimate need out there because of this conversation that we can help other people with, and we wouldn't have to just, you know, make this one-off.
And you said this covers 30%?
Yes.
So if you want to go down that route, you just establish it 30% up to whatever amount to spend that 20.
I still think at that point, you're still gonna have agreements that you're gonna have to enter into. I don't think that circumvents the fact that you're still gonna have to do agreements with all these parties, because it's still public funds being given to a private entity or a nonprofit, but it's the same situation we run into with the chamber and all those ones. So, I mean, don't want you to think this is gonna happen tomorrow by any means, of course, right? I mean, we're gonna have to still work through all that, so.
Well, I don't think Jeff puts a bill in anytime soon, does he?
Yeah, I'm like,
I think we're well experienced with this billing.
Okay.
Yeah, if that's cleaner and that's more comfortable, I'm good with that.
Well, I think I'd feel I'd feel better about that because that does put a limit on. If we're setting a precedent to put the limit on.
You were asking what, 3,900?
Yeah.
I would look for a cap per project.
Sure.
That way you're not having someone come in and they're gonna blow through your 20 grand budget.
30% of 35.
30% or 3,900 or 4,000, whatever you want to call it. That way we just have a framework to work around.
Yeah. Sounds good. So taking that conversation, you can develop something for us and bring it to us, then make it real, then.
See what you've started.
Yeah, but at least.
You'll be able to make a whole.
If it's truly needed in AD places, I'm more comfortable than looking at a one-off.
Yeah.
Because then we set a precedent that we're making an exception for a single entity. I'd rather look at it that we look at it more broader, like you discussed. So.
Well, it leaves it open for other nonprofits if they think.
So to set aside a dollar amount and then just give an amount with a cap to whoever may.
30% of the project.
Did you want to limit it to just the 88 corners? Does that simplify it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty, okay.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's tied to us trying to get ahead of the 80s.
Thank the theater showing its good faith by the level of skin that it's putting into the project. Overall, this is a $12,000 project.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll work
I
on it.
appreciate that you didn't ask for the 12,000.
Well, I've had 6 years of prior.
Yes. Okay.
Zach, you'll.
What can I share with Jeffrey?
of course.
Well, you'll be getting your funding soon, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, item G is a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign and execute an agreement with Carrie and Peterson Caroline Contracting LLC in the amount of $249,525 for the 69 kV transmission line relocation project.
So this is a matter, like I briefly mentioned when Greg and Andrew were talking about the wastewater treatment plant. This pertains to the 69 kV transmission line that comes up from the south. Actually, I'll show you how it navigates.
That's in our way.
Well, it's both. This was a project, the transmission projects, the electric utility and the wastewater treatment plant just kind of lined up where both were needed at the same time. So this project goes from starting on the south end, clear past the city limits and traverses all the way up the segment to Pass Waters, and then it connects from there from Pass Water Sub, following past the street department, following River Street up to Sweezy. This was a project that was planned, slated for Corn Belt to complete. And when DGR was completing their electric system study, they identified that this was also part of, it was interconnected to the Reisner substation construction. Now, under the agreement with Corn Belt would have typically just constructed to their specifications, fully funded it, and we wouldn't have been as involved with this. Because of the wastewater treatment plant, the Reisner substation, and a handful of other pieces to this project, the city decided to take it on in order to control the design, the construction methods, the path, and kind of have more flexibility on our end, how this gets built, knowing that this line is going to be there for the future. And we have a better understanding of how to develop this line and ensure there's possibility for future development in and around that area, particularly where the industrial park is at. So council approved the plans and specifications. The bids came back higher than anticipated, over $96,000 more. $249,000. The next bid was $295,000. So just for this piece of the project, the overall project, we had budgeted $600,000. So recommendation from DGR was to go ahead and accept the bid and move forward with that. Now, in a subsequent agenda item, I'll talk a little bit about more of the discussions with Corn Belt and how that comes into play. But this is the cost for that section of that transmission line.
There's been discussion in the past that we will be able to recoup some of that cost from the transmission, correct?
Correct. That's part of, not to jump ahead to that agenda item, but that's part of the discussions and negotiations that have to be had with Corn Belt and a letter or some sort of agreement coming in terms between Corn Belt and the city on how we navigate future, not only this transmission project, but others in the future moving forward. So.
And over the long run, hopefully pay for the project.
Correct.
Call for motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Item H is a resolution authorising the mayor to sign and execute an agreement with Alexander Butsky Engineering Incorporated professional engineering services associated with the wastewater treatment plant project. You got this one.
Yeah, I got one. So this is part of the wastewater treatment plant and also part of the power line, I guess. It's to run the two sanitary sewer fourth mains. So the new wastewater treatment plant. This is just to get the 6 borings free in the right of way of Highway 20. It includes laboratory testing, engineering analysis, and letter report. It'd be a total of $11,450 for that work.
All right, call for motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Item I is a resolution authorising the mayor to sign and execute a public utility easement in connection with the development with incorporated located at 505 Fair Avenue, Webster City, Iowa. Ariel?
So members, so this item comes before you, it's for the city to obtain an easement for the purpose of operating, maintaining, and removing all public utilities in connection with the development located at 505 Fair Avenue, which would be Quick Trip Incorporated. Historically, city council approves all easements via resolution. This easement does outline 9 covenants, terms, and conditions as part of the easement. This easement would be in place until they relocate the utilities, and then at that time, this easement would be looked to be released, and then a new easement put into place for the new location of the utility easements. I won't go through all 9 conditions because you guys have seen them in your memo, and I don't think you want to listen to me for that long. So there are no financial implications associated with the city with this easement. So city staff's just recommending city council adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign and execute a public utility easement in connection with development by Quick Trip Incorporated located at 505 Fair.
I want to correct one thing on that. This easement's not going away. This is the easement that they're taking. Last meeting, you guys approved the easement that's on partial letter S. This is the new easement that's coming across what is it? Off of Overpass Drive and then rerouting around their property, which will then, once that goes live, that's why you see on J and K, we're going to release the easement you guys just approved last meeting. So that's what it is. We had John Haldeman review the easement. Didn't see any issues. I confirmed with him again this morning that I wasn't going to be any issues with that. And so the only correction really on the resolution is the legal description's wrong, but we can plug that in. So you'll just approve it subject to the legal description being plugged in. So, and that was because we've been scrambling on this ever since last Tuesday to get this done. So
Yeah.
here we are. So.
Move to approve.
Second.
With the corrections.
With the correction, yeah.
The correcting. of
Correct
the
legal description, yep.
legal description.
Yep.
Okay, all those in favour say aye.
Do you motion?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Resolution accepting and authorising acquisition of property generally located at 614 First Street in the city of Webster City, Hamilton County, Iowa.
So over the last few years, the city has issued numerous notices to this property in regards to nuisances and an unsafe building located at 614 First Street. This property went before the judge on November 7th. for the consideration to be considered abandoned. The judge did rule in favor of the city, awarding the city the title free of any liens and encumbrances. Historically, city council has approved or has adopted resolutions related to accepting and approving the acquisition of abandoned properties. The city is responsible for paying the court costs for acquiring this dwelling. And if there's any future abatement or demolition, we're leaning towards the demolition most likely. And then the plan would be to resell the lot for future development, but that would come before the council at a later date. So city staff's just recommending the council approve of the resolution accepting and approving position of 614 first.
To approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Sarah. Item K is resolution authorising the street department supervisor to purchase a Snow-Go Pro Blast 3000 H snowblower through Sourcewell from Warsaw in the amount of $209,762.
Yeah, so this is a conversation that's been going on for a little while. Daniel and I went in depth on this. When I first dove into it, I think we had a 3-year stretch there where we didn't get very much snow. So got a lot of data that I collect when we in our snow removal operations. And the snowblower wasn't going out very much. And then all of a sudden last year, we get hit with all the snow, the high wind event. And why I'm saying this is because I was looking into a hydraulically driven machine that was a little bit smaller, compact, cheaper. And from last year's event, kind of Daniel and I talked, and it's wise that we go with a bigger machine like what we have now. Lesson learned. I just thought maybe it was doing the right thing, trying to save some money, but definitely with the snow that we've been getting, we need to go with the larger one. The Snow-Go that we have right now, it's 37 years old. So we've definitely got our money's out of it. We're literally welding it to keep it together and keep it going. But it runs. So it's time for that thing to go. I mean, we're supposed to get 40 years. So I think it's our best option to get this. A positive thing on talking to, we go through John Deere to get to Wausau, but we could see this as early as the middle of, there's one left. So I'm literally, once I get some approval, we make a phone call and they will hold it for us, and we could see it by the middle of December. So
I think what Brandon said was I was right. What I heard was
That's just the attachment on the front. It doesn't come with
a vehicle.
It won't fit on the front of your van.
That'd be pretty neat, huh?
you got to get up around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Give you a map to cover it. Exactly. Residential streets.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Brandon, I had a guy said something to me last night, and I thought it was one of those. He said, "You guys always clear the snow out from our city parking lot down there behind the Freeman Journal."
Sure.
And we haul the snow out of there.
Yeah.
And he said, "Why don't you just push it onto Jeff Habhab's lot?" And I thought, oh, well, I suppose we could instead of hauling it away. So I actually called Jeff. And Jeff said, yeah, as long as you push it to the middle, he doesn't care. So I don't know if that's something you might want to consider this year.
Yeah, it's something we can definitely look into.
But it was funny, one of those things you're talking to somebody and it's like, well, that's not such a stupid idea. I guess I could.
Yeah, I did know Jeff owned that. Yeah, so.
Yeah,
definitely.
so and I actually, because I was talking to him on something else and he said, well, yeah, there's no reason why you can't do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. In case the snowblower doesn't turn up. All right. The resolution authorising the mayor to sign and purchase agreement with Dean Allen Gillette and Lorette Gillette for land necessary to complete the wastewater treatment plant sanitary sewer force main in the amount of $86,337.50. So this is one we're glad to have behind us.
Yeah, this item just pertains to the easements required for the force main path to go from the current wastewater treatment plant to the new wastewater treatment plant. The easements pertain only to the portions that Mr. Gillette owned. They mirror, they're right adjacent to the existing trail path before they cut across and through Edgewood and then through past Water Sub. So we've been working on this for the better part of, I don't know, 6 years, Craig?
Been a long process.
I move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Item M is a discussion and direction by City Council regarding parking enforcement on Adele Street between Des Moines Street and Prospect Street during declared state of emergencies.
I believe she's not here, but this issue this is an item pertaining to when snow emergencies are declared, the code requires that vehicles be cleared off the roadway to allow for the snowplows crews to be able to clear the roadways throughout the entire city. When the snow emergencies in effect, vehicles are cleared from the road and the snowplows try to clear the snow and ice and apply salt or sand on some roads that are newly paved, but they clear from curb to curb. The issue became with Riverview in that when Electrolux closed many years ago, they lost part of their parking across the street where many of the employees had parked. Over the years, in these past 2 or 3 years, we started meeting before the season, before we started getting snow, and Brandon did a good job of putting together an ops plan in terms of how we handle snow emergencies and snow removal. Part of that required enforcement and consistent enforcement of vehicles that are kept on the road. We went through the process and realizing just what's going to be the best option to ensure we have consistent enforcement, to ensure vehicles are off the road. Unfortunately, this is a situation where employees have no other place to park at Riverview. It happened that they had parked there after the snow emergency was declared. Police officer came by. He attempted to try to find staff people at the daycare to notify them, but he indicated he was unsuccessful, and there were 2 vehicles that were ticketed and cited. Riverview has requested that the city code be reviewed and amended if necessary in order to allow for parking on Odell Street. Now, currently in the central business district, it's included in your code. The central business district does allow for parking after the snow plows have passed at least once. The best option and the way the process should go was the matter should probably be referred to the traffic committee, and then for them to identify the appropriate language to be amended if they feel it's necessary, or to try to find another workaround with that situation. This isn't necessarily a snow removal issue, although it does have some other issues. It's really kind of boils down to the parking enforcement during snow emergencies during that time period. When the issue arose last year, the police departments, the first snow of the season, we always get a number of citations that are issued for vehicles that are not taken off the roadway. And it becomes an issue for snowplow drivers to try to work around them, or particularly if it is continuing to snow throughout the day, or if it's icing throughout the day, they can't clear and provide the adequate salting and clearing of the roadways during that period of time. There is a provision with the central business district that spans from Bank Street up to the railroad, North Alley. And so that might be the best option in terms of just expanding that district clear up to Odell Street, or incorporating that to allow for, I guess, not enforcing parking restrictions on that street, unless there's some other options that the traffic committee may want to consider as recommendation. The code dates back to 1996. There are provisions in there that they do need to be clarified and cleaned up to better serve the realities of our operations and the emergencies we encounter with snow emergencies of that nature. So I'd recommend that you refer it to the traffic committee.
Yeah, I brought this to you, and I appreciate you putting it on the agenda. Riverview aren't necessarily asking us to change the ordinance. Riverview just wants to know if they have a solution yet, and our conversations led to being something that we should put in the conversation to the council. Again, this stems, yes, way back from Electrolux, but year over year, we've kind of had this like unsaid handshake kind of sort of agreement, like, look, and then some years they could take it and some years they don't. Sometimes it's not even seen. I don't know. So Rosie, the director, came to me at the last meeting I was at for the Riverview Board and goes, hey, what's the plan this year? Or we gotta deal with tickets. I'm like, oh, let me ask. You know, and again, when you think about it, these employees have to be there prior to 6 a.m. You know, get through the snow so everyone else can go to work, you know, and they really do have limited parking. The only parking they really have is on that street. There's a minimal parking in the back, and most employees take advantage of that if they can, but it's very limited. You know, just want that to be taken in consideration. I have no problems with going in front of the traffic committee. I mean, if they have a recommendation to give us, great. It is, you know, like anything, we're probably gonna have a solution in July, you know, and then what do we do this winter? And that's what I worry about, is just kind of how to avoid ticketing people making, you know, very little an hour to get to work so everyone else can get to work during those snow emergencies, with a road being lightly used other than the people really using Riverview. It's another thing to take into consideration, but I'm open to any you know, discussion and direction.
So I will say, so our snow removal operation that says in bold print that street needs to be plowed by 5 a.m. So reason for that, this goes back to Laney, you know, for the simple reason that those folks need to get to work early, or obviously before we go to work. So there's been some change in operators and new folks coming in, so we may have been a little bit behind. That could have seen a little bit after 5. I spoke to Daniel on this topic, and we kind of, you know, we've done some research and background stuff on it. So yeah, I mean, I think there's some stuff on our end that we're gonna try to do a better job and get the newer guys there a little bit sooner. But also, I would say that we would be there before, you know, but I get it, that it does say that you can't park there. So I think to do it the right way.
Yeah, and that's cool. And again, I don't want to, I don't want to necessarily, like, you know, bend a favor in their direction just because, you know, they're daycare. You know, I'm just saying that it just makes sense. And every year they've kind of had this like loose kind of sort of agreement, depending on who the city manager was during that year, you know, and kind of how binding it was, who knew. So to have something in stone would be ideal, because then we don't talk about every year. And everyone goes, no, you know. So yeah, I'm good. Have any direction you want to take it, just please know that, you know, snow is coming in a month or two, not, you know, 6 months down the road where it might come to a collusion that way. But if you are plowing the street at 5 a.m. ish, then there really would be no need, right? Because they would be cleared somewhat unless it continues to snow.
Yeah, I think
the snow would be
One pass through, right?
That's step 2.
The concern is that if we go through at 5 a.m.
and it's snowing heavy,
it continues to snow, staff shows up, parks there. Now the police take it. If somebody gets hurt, are we now liable? Because we're not following the code per se.
Yeah.
So I guess just to cover everybody's tracks and make sure it's the right thing.
Yeah, I think it needs to go to traffic.
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah. Either. So Brandon will try and clear it, and meanwhile, we'll go to the traffic committee and have.
So how we get that thing to be.
I appreciate that, and I'm sure the Riverview employees do as well. So thank you.
Yeah, before the traffic committee meets, so there's, like Daniel said, there's other parts of it that probably just all need to be cleaned up in the meantime too. There's other stuff that's driving me nuts about that portion.
Probably should.
So, but it seems like it's a simple answer,
So
right?
you're saying kick the whole thing to the traffic committee right now and just clean up?
No, I just think that when's the reality we're gonna have traffic committee meeting? Couple weeks?
It would be when we get something to take to traffic committee, so we could work the meeting on a needed basis right now.
Right, so I'm saying, like, reality, you're gonna get traffic committee together probably in the next 2 weeks, right?
So right after Thanksgiving.
All right, so all I'm saying is before when we know what's going, say, like you said, right after Thanksgiving.
Sure.
Just right before that, we might as well just plug in the other changes. It's not gonna take any time. It's not gonna add any time. I'm just saying we might as well do that, so we're not going back again a month from later on. And then you guys will get it, their recommendation, of course, then you have the right to decide whatever you want, and then you can waive We're talking about second, third reading, if you want to do the city to pass the first meeting in December or whatever. So,
No, so that's good. But again, I'm comfortable with that. I just, a long-term solution is what the motivation was behind this.
yeah.
Item N is a discussion and direction by city council regarding negotiations with Corn Belt regarding transmission projects.
Yeah, as I mentioned a little bit ago, so there's been a lot of conversations that Edie and I have had with Corn Belt and NYMECA and Zach and our outside legal counsel for the electric utility. And so we were at the point where we were getting ready to kind of start having some more detailed conversations and iron out specific details with Corn Belt related to both the agreement we have with Corn Belt as it pertains towards managing, coordinating, and funding those transmission projects. I think, as I mentioned, Corn Belt, the agreement right now is specify that Corn Belt will be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of those projects. And so we've kind of, I've paused things because I didn't want to get into detailed discussions with Corn Belt, and then unfortunately I'm going to be leaving that in first part or later part of this year. And so they don't want to start something that is not going to be able to be kept up or move forward. And then someone has to step in and try to learn what those backgrounds of those discussions were and reasons why. Looking for council's guidance on how you want to proceed. Do you want to wait until you have someone either interim or permanent? Or do you want someone from the council to be involved and lead those conversations with Corn Belts? What's your direction on how you want to proceed? I think, as we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of moving parts to this, and a lot of them are also tied to the construction of the force main and the wastewater treatment plant. So time is critical, at least with this component.
Is this something that, like, we got, we had Blair come in and do parts of things, things to do with our electric earlier. Is that something that we could hire him to do, needed, or is it needed? Is it?
I don't see why not.
expertise?
They've been a part of it. I mean, they've already been in a lot of, they've been in all the discussions, so I don't.
Exactly.
It might require a change of scope to their services, which,
I mean, but I mean, he's, we're getting an expert then, because,
I think Daniel's point is a lot of it though is like, we're supposed to have a meeting or tomorrow even. I mean, like, there's a lot of meetings that have to take place too, that it's not just design and engineers being involved. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth right now currently, that it's like we either have to give somebody the lead on that to get these done, or we're gonna have to kick the can. I mean, I don't know what else you guys, because there is a lot of back and forth that just has to take place. It's not just engineering wise.
Yeah, and I recall years ago when the current agreement with Corn Belt was done in 2013, and there were a lot of questions up in the air in terms of why things were negotiated or why things were agreed to in a certain way. And so there was a lot of things left up to interpretation simply because of that change in transition with the manager role. And so I want to make sure that the city avoids that, so that I don't necessarily start something that's not going to be able to move forward, or there's not a background understanding as to the reasons why. So I think if you want a DGR involved, at least it's going to require a change of services for them, but you also kind of have to probably talk with them, and I probably would rely on Andy more so to navigate that. The other issue or question you're going to deal with is with, I don't want to say conflict of interest, but they are your engineers.
That's what I mean.
So you may have at least that perception of, well, you deal with that with the wastewater treatment plant. We've navigated that with Greg Sims and their work and what they're doing because of the cost related to the project. And so, you're going to have that perception if you rely on the engineer to deal and represent the city in these negotiations and discussions with Corn Belt, from the public perception is what's their interest at heart. So,
yeah.
And the matter is complex. We do not have a traditional wholesale power agreement like other municipalities with NYMECA or any other entity, NMPP or others that have. And so that's what adds to this complexity as well.
So what other suggestion do you have?
Me, I would think you guys would probably want to let us continue the discussions with Corn Belt up until, you know, Daniel leaves and Petey leaves, so that we can, it may put some sort of a stop date between the parties that we can say, well, this is the date we have to get this figured out. And if we don't get it figured out by then we.
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest, I mean, because really, there's no other, I
The
don't see,
easiest thing for us to do right now.
I don't see another approach once. Because Corn Belt's gonna have to bring the new person or whoever that is up to speed. I mean, I don't know how you keep, I think that would be it may get this done sooner too, because I mean, we work on it, so it's not like we're not doing nothing. It's,
Yeah, we can try to wrap it up in the next few weeks, but any hiccup in that and.
right, but I think that's what that's the conversation with Corn Belt.
Bad time of year to be done.
Yeah,
Trying to get all that stuff done.
This is when we gotta have figured out. If we don't, then we don't. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing, if you can keep working at it, but and then if we make a decision what we're doing for an interim or what we're doing there, then perhaps something can be worked in there too, I don't know.
Okay. Any questions from anyone else? We'll follow back up with Corn Belt, re-engage and hopefully restart that process and report back at the next meeting. If there's any things to follow up on.
Yeah. And then we got a discussion on the leadership survey.
So this came from my request at the prior council meeting that got some sort of a leadership city leader engagement / culture, just get their feedback on as we move forward, what are things that they feel we need to work on, both in my perspective, both as a council and our relationship with the city, as well as what they've seen, either room for opportunity for improvement or things that went well with relationships with the city manager. I think it's a good point to look at that. Not that we're the only city struggling with, multiple city managers over a short period of time. It's happening in a lot of places, but I'd like to look at their feedback to see where they think we should move. I did have the chance to have a conversation with a couple of those on the list, GovHR and CP2. My viewpoint was that we look at some sort of a leadership versus an entire employee, and not that all employees' feedback isn't important, but from what I was hoping to accomplish was kind of getting that leadership guidance to move forward. And then we can look at a full, whether it's a Gallup or another type of survey that we do, a total city survey, we can do that too. But this was, my suggestion was more tailored towards leadership and key city positions that have daily interaction with either, the city manager and assistant manager, council, or other city leaders. Just as a starting point, that was my suggestion. The two that I talked to, they can do surveys in different ways. One suggested that they do more of an interview type survey where they'd have someone come and interview city department heads, key positions, if we had positions that we wanted them to also interview, and then bring back a summary of findings. And they would use a wide variety of interview questions to kind of gauge the culture of, within city government right now, within city leadership. And one of the two also said you could look at, because they also provide interim services, you could look at hiring an interim manager who would also, as part of that role, conduct a survey. When they come in, they're doing their part of trying to manage, the day-to-day, but they're also tasked with doing a survey of the city department heads. So there's a lot of different ways to go. I just wanted to start the discussion. By all means, don't have to make a decision tonight. We have plenty of time. It's not going to be a fast process, I think, to replace Daniel's position, but I just wanted to start the conversation so that as we move forward, we're setting up the not only the city manager, but the department heads all feel like we're in a good place moving forward with how we move the city forward, I guess, with the new hire, so. That's basically what I found out and why I suggested that.
I think you're right. I think we do need to have something done there. It's, we need to, but we've got time. I think that we interviewed a guy tonight, for our interim. I think we need to get something done interim wise, and then we'll have time to get this part done. And like you say, perhaps that, depending on who is the interim, is that part of that study, or is it done with an other person? Would be whatever we decide as to who we picked, I guess. But
We gotta think too, you go out and get information, now what do you do with it, you know?
Well, and that was brought up. I mean, that's a good point. A survey is a waste of time and waste of money if we as a council aren't willing to take the feedback that's given and help direct either that new city hire or the direction. If they come and they say, we feel that this should be occurring and it's not, and we just brush that guidance aside, it's a waste of time to do this.
It probably goes back, put us in a worse position.
Exactly.
Because now we've disenfranchised a person that's a valuable employee to us, and
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a key point too. We have to be on board with taking feedback and whatever it is, using that to move forward. So.
And I am curious, what city staff feels like, I think with the gap between city managers, I think that'll open up some communication and some walls will come down a little bit just organically, just because there's not like maybe a step or a barrier or a person, metaphorically, a barrier between us and the city staff. So I know, because I've heard rumblings, and some feedback and stuff we got in goal setting, there might be some loss of faith in our council, or maybe uncomfortable with the direction we're going with things, or the weight we put on certain things, or so I would love to get some feedback from staff members, where they're at, where they want to be, where they see Webster City, where they want us to devote more attention. That'd be great, but again, we just gotta be careful. It's like, it's Fabergé egg there, because if you don't handle that input correctly, it could backfire.
I don't want to waste the time or money if we're not going to do something.
Absolutely.
So
just
kind
Beth
of a
will be back.
feedback, and I think I sent what I received from those two to everyone on council to review.
Yeah, and Beth's away.
Looking somewhere, in the neighborhood of 6,000 to 10,000, depending on the scope of what you do. So.
And we could have Beth look into it. She comes back next week.
Yeah.
And we've got time to.
Just wanted to start collecting some information and having these conversations.
We've got another individual wants to be, that I guess we're gonna have to interview sometime too, and I don't know if we want to do that before the next council meeting or whatever, but or we want to do a special.
I'm open to anything.
When is the next one? Is it
I guess we have Thanksgiving to get through first.
the 4th?
December.
Yeah.
4th.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Just depends if you want to do one between now and the next meeting, or if you're comfortable.
I guess at this stage, we can wait unless there's something else happens. Maybe perhaps we'll have somebody else by then. We're going to do more than one. But
Just so you know, the 4th, I think I have a kids play Christmas program on the 4th.
You do?
I do, yeah.
We have a concert.
It
is about the same time.
Concert, yeah.
So that might be, might not be I'll take first grade Christmas on.
Well, we can talk
That
about
would be
it.
on Tuesday.
We can see what we got this weekend.
An additional.
If we can do something next week, perhaps.
They want to.
Do we want to?
Yeah, because we'll have to consider if we have interested candidates, and now this is where I'd also encourage if we have current city department heads that are interested, by all means, speak up. If they feel like that they want to do that job, I'd like to hear that. So.
Speaking of which, I like the way the paper handled the letter.
Mhm.
The editorial from your editor was well written, and I appreciate the way the paper handled that.
I'll send out an email tomorrow on a couple nights next week to see what. Let's feel people out.
Call for motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favour say aye. Thanks everyone for like. Night.
What's the score, dude?
Oh.
Yeah, very,
She's ready to school. And then 2 minutes pretty, and then I need to score again. So this will be the ball.